I'm sorry that I cannot be with you at this very important summit today, but unfortunately previous commitments mean that I'm unable to attend the summit in person. I am, however, very pleased to be able to address you virtually. OSPRAG has been an excellent example of collaborative working, which has shown the determination of all those involved in the oil and gas industry, the regulators and the trades unions, to ensure that the UK safety and environmental regimes continue to be amongst the best in the world. OSPRAG provides a focal point for a review of the UK offshore sector and its ability to cope in the event of a major incident. By working together, all parties have benefited from the full and open exchange of information and ideas. Where improvements have been identified which will further strengthen the UK regime, measures have been quickly taken to implement the group's recommendations. The UK was one of the first offshore jurisdictions to develop its oil and gas potential, and its proud history of offshore exploration and production has, over the last 4 decades, produced an amazingly innovative and productive oil and gas industry. The industry has a strong record in relation to safety and the environment. Since 1974, over 315 deepwater wells have been drilled in UK waters without a blowout or drilling-related oil spill. Our regulatory system has been developed to meet evolving challenges and is robust and fit for purpose. The UK has learned from experience both at home and abroad. Following the terrible Piper Alpha disaster, safety regulation was brought under the Health and Safety Executive umbrella to get the benefit of their expertise in regulating major hazards. And DEC, of course, plays a vital role in overseeing the exploration, development, production and environmental performance of the offshore industry. However, the tragic events in the Gulf of Mexico, in which 11 people died and just under 5 million barrels of oil were released to sea, remind us that we can never be complacent. More recently, and nearer to home, we've seen the Shell Gannet release, which, although nowhere near the same scale as the Gulf of Mexico blowout, and not related to drilling operations, is still the most significant oil release in the UK over the last decade. Such an incident serves to reinforce our resolve to have the most effective regulatory processes. In order to maintain a world-class regime, consideration of human safety and risk to the environment must be an integral consideration in relation to oil and gas activities. We are committed to ensuring that lessons from the Macondo incident are considered and taken fully into account where appropriate in the United Kingdom. OSPRAG was established in May last year to identify and address emerging cross-industry issues arising from the Gulf of Mexico incident. And it's an excellent example of industry, the regulators and trades unions working together to consider and develop enhancements to our regime where necessary. Over 40 companies, representing both industry and the supply chain, participants from DEC, the Health and Safety Executive and the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, along with the offshore unions, the RMT and Unite, have voluntarily given significant amounts of time and effort to identify and implement improvements to strengthen the UK's oil spill prevention and response practices for the benefit of all. Today's summit marks the culmination of that work, and later you will have the opportunity to hear in depth about the work that has been undertaken to bolster the industry's prevention of blowouts, and in the event that such an incident occurs, to respond to it swiftly and decisively. However, I want to touch briefly on 1 or 2 of those areas now. Prior to the Macondo incident, the concept of having a dedicated capping device on hand was not one which had received much attention, but that is, of course, not the case now. The most visible output from OSPRAG has been the development, production and testing of a cap, specifically for use in UK waters, and I had the pleasure of unveiling this device at Offshore Europe 2 weeks ago. The cap, which was designed and built within 7 months, will allow UK operators to seal an uncontrolled subsea well without delay in the unlikely event of a blowout. This will minimise environmental damage and allow valuable time for engineers to deploy a permanent solution. The cap is a major step forward and significantly bolsters the UK's capability to deal with a major loss of well control should it ever be required. The cap, however, is only one element of the work that has been undertaken by OSPRAG, and that should not overshadow the significant developments that have been taken forward within other work streams. Another key output has been the creation of a new pan-industry forum to provide expertise in the specialist area of well life cycle practices. The Well Life Cycle Practices Forum has looked at a range of areas from blowout preventers to competency, behaviours and human factors. The forum not only provides a vehicle for implementing OSPRAG's recommendations, but will be a permanent group under the auspices of Oil and Gas UK, sharing best practice and creating and resourcing work groups to address well-related issues. This demonstrates the commitment of all parties to continuous improvement after OSPRAG has been disbanded. Another area where we have seen significant progress has been in the efforts to secure appropriate and proportionate provisions that address the industry's financial responsibilities in meeting the potential clean-up and compensation costs of an oil spill. The OPOL, the Offshore Pollution Liability Association liability pool, which is unique to North Sea operation, increased its cover from $120 million to $250 million. Work has also been done to determine the appropriate level of cover for various different drilling scenarios, from deeper, harsher waters to shallower, more benign areas around the UK. This work is currently being peer-reviewed, and my department is looking forward to receiving the results shortly. In addition to the work done by OSPRAG, we've also tested how the authorities would respond in the event of a major deep water spill in the United Kingdom. As part of an established programme of response exercises, an oil spill exercise called Exercise Sula took place off Shetland in May to test the UK's national contingency plan for marine pollution from a deep-water drilling operation similar to Macondo. And you'll be hearing about this in detail this afternoon. This was one of the biggest exercises of its kind in the UK and involved over 200 participants. It examined the UK's combined response capabilities by bringing together all the major organisations who would participate in the containment, at sea and shoreline response efforts. Although there were some areas where the exercise showed we could do better, and after all this is the point of doing it, overall it demonstrated that the UK has highly professional and dedicated personnel who understand their roles and responsibilities and who can respond effectively to an oil spill incident. Although we're moving towards a less carbon-intensive future, we cannot just wish away our need for hydrocarbons, which currently supply some 3/4 of our energy needs. We will be significantly dependent on oil and gas for many years to come, and I believe that it is vital that we continue to do all we can to maximise economic recovery of our indigenous hydrocarbon resources, whilst maintaining high standards of safety and minimising environmental impacts. Exploitation of the UK continental shelf has been a major success. 40 billion barrels have been produced so far, but 20 billion or perhaps more still remain. This offers, by any measure, a major prize. The UK has a good track record, but we cannot rule out the possibility of an incident on the UKCS, even if it is very unlikely. The work that has been undertaken by OSPRAG goes a long way to further minimising that risk, and should such an event occur, ensuring that the UK has appropriate response measures in place to limit the impact on safety and the environment. Once again, I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but I hope you have a very productive summit.